Welcome back to another episode of Ingrid's World. My name is Ingrid Paris-Hicklin, and I'm the host and executive producer of the show. We welcome to the show Colonel Lewis S. Wallace, Jr., United States Air Force, retired. Colonel Wallace is the author of Wings of Diplomacy. Colonel Wallace is a native of Washington, D.C., who writes about his distinguished 35-year military career that spans academia, diplomacy, intelligence, and international affairs. He was the first African-American valedictorian of the Defense Language Institute Basic Russian Language Program, and later became the first African-American instructor, course director, and assistant professor of Russian at the United States Air Force. A summa cum laude graduate of Syracuse University and a Phi Beta Kappa inductee. Colonel Wallace also earned degrees from Ohio State University and completed advanced studies in Moscow. Most importantly, in 1988, he was appointed by President Ronald Reagan and confirmed by the Department of Defense as the first African-American assigned to the American Embassy in Moscow as the Assistant Air Attaché. His career is remarkable. You're right here, and you get to listen to it. Colonel Wallace, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ingrid. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And as we say, the second time is a charm. It's the second time I've been on your program.
I know. We were talking about your illustrious career and what you've done. But, touch with our audience about some of the things that you have accomplished.
Well, you just address some of the things that I've accomplished. You mentioned that I was the first African-American valedictorian from my basic Russian class at the Defense Language Institute. And I gave my valedictory speech totally in Russian. Of course, they handed out English translations.
Wow.
But the audience was about 300 people. And my proud parents were also there for this momentous occasion.
Wow.
Yeah. Next, you mentioned Syracuse University. I spent a year in Syracuse University. My last year of my degree, I received the Bachelor of Arts degree in Soviet Studies. And of course, as you mentioned, I had a 3.9 grade point average, and I was inducted into the prestigious Phi Beta Kappa Society.
Wow.
After graduating from Syracuse, I got my master's degree from Ohio State University with a double major in Slavic languages and literature and foreign language education. At graduation, I was named a distinguished graduate of the Air Force Institute of Technology.
Wow.
After graduating from Ohio State, I was fortunate enough for the Air Force to send me to Moscow for graduate studies. Mm-hmm. I attended the prestigious Pushkin Institute of Foreign Languages in Moscow and received a diploma in teaching Russian to foreigners.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing career. And that's just getting started, because I actually read your book from cover to cover. So there's a lot of information in here. So first of all, tell everyone about this remarkable book that you've written.
Well, I wrote this book basically. My motivation for writing this book was to give hope to poor, disadvantaged youth in America. I recall the words of the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, who always spoke about hope and believing in yourself. Mm-hmm. Also, former President Barack Obama also spoke about his slogan was enduring hope, or the prospect of hope for all people. So that was my motivation to write this novel. And I also wrote it to instill in young people from disadvantaged and marginalized communities that there is hope. All you have to do is work hard, get a good education, believe in God, and your dreams will be fulfilled, and you can become a productive member of society.
So when I hear this, which is absolutely wonderful, because you inspired me, because when I read it, I was like, oh my goodness, because you make no bones about it, but the fact that, very poor, growing up in the inner city of Washington, D.C., but then to be walking with presidents, and you're going to tell us all about the different things that you've done. You ended in such a beautiful way of talking about it. So you open up, but tell us the journey that you're bringing us on. Where does it start, and then where did you kind of end it at?
Ingrid, Wings of Diplomacy starts when I was born in Washington, D.C., and it traces my whole life until I retired from the military in 2000. It talks about my growing up years. It talks about my education. It talks about the challenges that I had faced. It talks about some of the successes that I had. My life was not easy, but at a young age, I learned that circumstances may influence us, but they do not have to really deny us from achieving our goals in life.
That's right. So you met some amazing people when you were there at the embassy in Moscow.
Yes.
Tell us about some of the people that you've met, and I'm hoping that we have time for us to talk about our Condoleezza Rice, Dr. Rice. So let's talk about, you have a picture now of Jesse Jackson, and what was that about?
Yes, I met the late Reverend Jesse Jackson when he came to Moscow in 1989. He was a special envoy from President George H.W. Bush. And he came to Moscow to speak with Soviet officials and also with Soviet dissidents, because he wanted more cooperation with U.S. People and also with Soviet citizens at the grassroots level.
Wow. Amazing.
Ambassador Matlock, the ambassador to Russia, gave a special dinner for Reverend Jackson, and Ann and myself were invited to attend.
Oh, how amazing.
Yeah.
And then, oh my goodness, such a wonderful career. And then there's a picture of you with the late General Colin Powell.
Yes. General Colin Powell was my friend and mentor. I met him the first time in 1991 at the start of Operation Desert Storm. That was the first war with Iraq. I was sitting in my office in the Pentagon one day when I got a call from the general's executive officer, who said they wanted an intelligence officer to urgently come to the general's office to give him a briefing on the air situation in Iraq.
Wow.
So I grabbed my briefing board and ran to his office, and I introduced myself as Colonel Lewis Wallace, and I started my briefing. The briefing lasted approximately 20 minutes. And after I gave the briefing, the general turned to me and said, "Colonel, I want you to attend the briefing in the Pentagon briefing room with myself and Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney."
Wow.
I was flabbergasted, but all I said was, okay, General, because you cannot say no to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Wow.
So 15 minutes later, I found myself on stage with the Secretary of Defense and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This was a really momentous occasion in my life. The second time I met General Powell was after the conclusion of Operation Provide Hope. This was one of the largest operations in U.S. history, where we provided millions, thousands of tons of medical supplies, food, and other critical elements to the republics of the former Soviet Union.
Wow.
And General Powell made a special visit to the Department of State to present me with a prestigious Humanitarian Service Medal for my outstanding performance during Provide Hope.
That's this, and we're showing pictures of the cargo that's going on the plane, and with Project Hope. Now, you in your book you say that the First Lady gave you instructions. So tell us about that.
Well, there was a very devastating earthquake in Armenia in 1989. And the First Lady, Barbara Bush, traveled to Moscow and then to Yerevan to provide humanitarian assistance and also to transport 30 injured youth that were injured in the earthquake.
Wow.
And I was basically her escort to set up all of her travel. So when we got on the aircraft, the First Lady turned to me and said, Colonel, I want you to travel with us to Washington, D.C., because you speak Russian and you can comfort the critically injured children during this long flight. I didn't have any authorization to go to Washington, D.C.
What did you do?
Well, I said, yes, ma'am, because you can never say no to the First Lady.
Okay.
So we traveled to Washington, D.C., landed at Andrews Air Force Base, and all of the injured children were taken to various hospitals throughout the United States.
That's beautiful. That just warms my heart. And then you met Condoleezza Rice, my hero. Tell us about that.
Well, one day I was delivering some information to the ambassador's office in Moscow, and I was walking the halls, and I saw this tall, beautifully dressed African-American woman walking towards me. So when we met, she asked me, she said, what is your name? I said, I'm Colonel Wallace, the Assistant Air Attaché. She said, I'm Dr. Condoleezza Rice, and I'm here for high-level talks with at the Kremlin with the Soviet officials. And also she said, Colonel Wallace, I've completed all of my formal duties, and I would like to go somewhere and just relax.
Oh, wow.
I immediately invited her to our quarters on the embassy compound, and she accepted this gracious invitation, and she spent 5 days with us on the embassy compound.
Wow.
And I found out that we had a lot of similarities. We had the same birthday.
Oh my goodness.
We were both inducted into Phi Beta Kappa.
Oh my goodness.
And we both were fluent in Russian.
Fluent in Russian?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. You're fluent in a lot of different languages,
yes,
but Russian was the one. Okay.
Russian was the one. And several days I went shopping with Dr. Rice. We went to the Arbat Mall near the embassy, And, you know, she wanted to pick up some souvenirs and things to take back to Washington.
Ah.
But the local Russians were amazed that here were two African American people that spoke fluent Russian.
Wow. Well, I just tell you, you know, and there's, I know that just had to be like amazing. And
Yes, it was amazing. But later, in 2022, Dr. Rice became the first African American Secretary of State.
Right.
And we had stayed in touch with her throughout the years, and she invited us to her first secretary's reception in the diplomatic rooms of the State Department.
How amazing is that? Oh, absolutely wonderful. And then there is a picture of you and your wife Annie, and you're at with Bob Hope.
Yes, Bob Hope came to Moscow in 1989 to give a show for the military and civilian employees of the U.S. Embassy. This was Mr. Hope's first visit to Moscow, and he was accompanied by actress Brooke Shields.
Oh, wow.
And her mother.
And her mom. Oh,
her
my
mom,
goodness.
yes.
Wow, wow.
Yeah. So I was tasked as his escort and interpreter during his stay in Moscow. He gave a rousing performance in front of about 300 guests on the grounds of the U.S. Embassy. These included military, civilian employees, and also selected Russian guests.
Wow.
Yeah. And after his performance, the next day, Mr. Hope visited Red Square and toured that area, and he also visited the first McDonald's that had opened in January in the Soviet Union.
Wow.
So I guess he got a Big Mac.
Did he get a Big Mac?
I think so.
All right,
yes.
now. So you have had this amazing career. Did you ever imagine that you would be so successful?
Ingrid, not really. I didn't. I had no idea I would be so successful in my life. But I always remember the words of my mother, who was my #1 cheerleader. At an early age, I think I was about 8 years old, I had a very serious conversation with my mother. And I said, "Mom, when I grow up, I want to be the first Negro president of the United States of America." Oh. She looked at me and smiled and said, "Son, in this great country, you can be anything you want to be. All it takes is getting a good education, working hard, believing in God, and never give up on your dreams."
Wow, wow. I mean, and I think that's like so powerful, because one thing about it is that it sounds like it, and throughout your book, you're always going back to what your mother said, and I think that that's inspiring for a lot of people who are watching this to know that those words that you're delivering to your child or to other young people, they are using that. They take it to heart. You took it to heart.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So as we look back, how should a young person, someone's out there looking and said, "You know what? I want to be just like Colonel Wallace. I want to be able to travel the world. I want to be able to follow in your footsteps." What should they be doing?
Well, the advice I would give young people is, #1, persevere. Don't give up. #2, in any job that you have, be the best you can be and showcase your intellectual skills and also your leadership. Okay? And the third thing I would ask them to do is never give up. Never give up hope. Keep working toward their goal.
Wow, which is a perfect segue to my next question, because I talk with you and your success. So I must ask you, were there ever a time that you were denied a promotion or an opportunity? And how did you get through, and what did you do? Did that ever happen to you?
Of course.
Okay.
I'll give you two examples.
Okay, okay.
The first example was when I was assigned to the Air Force Academy in, I believe it was 1980.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I was the first African American instructor of Russian and the first course director of a Russian course.
Okay.
Okay. And I was scheduled to be elevated to the academic rank of assistant professor. However, my supervisor told me that they were going to deny my promotion to assistant professor.
Wow.
When I asked why, I was not given any answer.
No answer?
No answer.
Wow.
So what I did was I told my supervisor point blank that if I didn't get the promotion to assistant professor, which I truly deserved and I earned, I requested an immediate reassignment from the Air Force Academy to another position, say in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
After I made that comment, the faculty leadership had a very hurried meeting and came out and shook my hand and said, "Congratulations, you are now an assistant professor of Russian."
My goodness.
I was the first African American to achieve that rank in the history of the Air Force Academy, and no one has followed in my footsteps since then.
Wow.
The second time that I was denied was when I applied for the position of Assistant Air Attaché in Moscow. I applied 2 times and sent in all my paperwork.
Yes.
However, both applications were denied.
Wow.
Not because of my qualifications, but because of my race. So I did not give up. I persisted, and I applied again the next year. And the third time was the charm.
The third time was a charm.
My application was approved by the Department of Defense and confirmed by President Ronald Reagan.
Wow. You know what? As if fate would have it, we're getting ready to run out of time. We have about maybe 2 minutes left. So what do you want readers to remember about your book?
One thing that I would like readers to remember is that you should never give up on your dreams. Whatever you want to do, be persistent, work hard, and you will accomplish things in life. And I'm a living example of that.
A living example.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, Colonel Wallace, it has been a true pleasure having you on the show. Thanks again for being on Ingrid's World.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are a joy. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this interview, and just have to thank you for your amazing service. And my closing words are inspirational quote from General Colin Powell, former U.S. Secretary of State and Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff. If you're going to achieve excellence in big things and develop the habit in little matters. Excellence is not an exception, it's a prevailing attitude. Well, thank you everyone for watching this episode of Ingrid's World. I hope you're inspired. I know I have been. Remember to connect with me on Facebook at Ingrid's World and follow the show at Ingrid's World VA in X and Instagram. And watch the show anytime you want on YouTube at Ingrid's World YouTube channel, LLC, and ingridsworld.org. Okay, everyone, major announcement. You can live stream the show at www.fcac.org, channel 10. Find Ingrid's World viewing schedule. You can even find it on ingridsworld.org. So everyone, thanks for watching. Go out there and do something great. You've been inspired.